Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today to finish up our first week in this time called Advent, the time before Christmas. And I've been talking about Mary, and I want to read once again the verses that are associated with this part of the story from Luke chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. In the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a town in Galilee called Nazareth, to a virgin engaged to a man whose name was Joseph. He was the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. Now, Mary, as we've been talking about, was this young girl who is excited about this marriage coming up. I mean, it's going to change her life. But there's something else that's going to change her life even more than she ever imagined, and that's this coming of the angel Gabriel. And the angel's going to speak to her. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before we get to that part, just think about all of the details that Mary had to think about in preparing for this wedding. All of the changes in her life, all of the realignments of relationships. And and in the midst of that, there had to have been a sense of restlessness. The scripture talks about restlessness. Here in Isaiah chapter 55, verses 8 through 9, and it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts." Mary's thinking about this coming wedding, as rightfully she should be. But God's thinking about something else. He's thinking about the coming of his son. Mary's busy. She's got all this stuff to do. And I think anxious restlessness would naturally be a part of that. But yet, God, in the midst of all of this, shares these words from Isaiah that apply to Mary and apply to you. My thoughts are not your thoughts. Now, this passage here has struck me for many, many years. And somehow or another, I don't know where it came from. I don't know who said it. I doubt I came up with it for the first time, but I always came up with this idea that what I want is not necessarily what God wants. And what God wants is not necessarily what I want. But if I'm going to be a Christian, if I'm going to walk with the Lord, I've got to learn the difference between what God wants and what I want. And when there's a conflict, I have to change what I want to what God wants. And I think that's a pretty valid piece of advice for you and for me, because we don't understand the fullness of the situation. Mary did not understand the fullness of the situation. I mean, how could she, if you think about it? But then, how could you and I even think that we could do that? Our knowledge is so limited, our time frame is so small. How could we even begin to believe that somehow we got all the answers? Christmas is about the coming of Jesus. It's about God sharing his own son with the world. Now, he could have made Jesus come just like he did Adam. Boom, there he is. But he didn't. He brought him into the world as a small, innocent baby who had to learn, had to grow, had to experience life just like you and I do. But the one thing that's I'm confident about in terms of Jesus' life, is that he never, ever was concerned about the future. You and I don't have to be either. I know this Christmas people are running around. What am I going to get for this person? What am I going to get for that person? And I'm in the same boat. I'm not real sure what to get for my wife. I've listened to her over the year, and unfortunately, some of it I've forgotten. But I don't know what Christmas presents to buy for her. I never have. And if I ask her, you know what she's going to say? Oh, you don't have to get me anything. That's not helpful. And you know what? When she asks me that, yep, you got it. I say the same thing. And I'm sure she's struggling to figure out what to do, and I'm struggling to figure out what to do. But there are other people who are struggling with much, much, much more severe questions in life than what to get somebody for Christmas. Mary was struggling with what does it mean to be married, to be engaged, to change my life. And so you and I can look at the same kind of situation and think the same kind of thoughts and wonder, what is God trying to do in this point in time? So I have a question for you. Have you ever felt restless? Have you ever been not content with your life? What do you think causes that? Is it fear? Is it disappointment? Is it anxiousness? Whatever you have felt disappointed in your life, discontented, restless, hopeless, that sort of thing, it's all come from someplace. And I don't know where yours has come from, nor where it will the next time. But I know this, it doesn't come from God. If we can rest in the presence of the Lord, as I'm sure Mary did during this time in her life, we can overcome anything. Will you think about that today? Thanks for listening. If you have a need or a concern or something that we might be able to help you with, let us know. And we'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. So I'll be back next week and we'll start another week on Advent, another topic. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. God bless you. I'll talk to you again.